Hey, my name's Ryan, and I wanted to make a video. And the idea for this came from a comment from TG Mac Diogenes, who left a comment on one of my videos about America. And Native Americans in America have a very interesting history, some of which some of you may know. A lot of it we don't. Um, unless that's what you study for a living, you have very limited knowledge. We all do. We can only learn so much, I get that. But I do know quite a bit. Uh, my knowledge isn't extensive, but I've read a lot of books, and I've spent a lot of time with a lot of different Native Americans. Uh, I know Lakota. Um, I know a lot of Dene, Hopi, Cherokee. Know some Nez Perce. Met members of AIM. Know a few people up in Northern California, some of the coastal tribes. Uh, I was involved in a protest camp down by Needles that had 7 different tribes working together to try to defend a place the government wanted to put a nuclear waste dump that wasn't a good location for it. And so I've taken a lot of interest in Native Americans, and this is a tough subject for me because I have mixed feelings. And this is where my mixed feelings come from. There are a lot of Native Americans who are very patriotic, uh, including the one I mentioned that gave me the idea for this video. We all know about the code talkers, most of us, right? So there's a lot of patriotic Native Americans who they are aware of bad things that were done to a lot of Native Americans, but they know that was in the past, in a different time, and they have forgiven our ancestors for what happened to their ancestors. And even, in some cases, some living natives experienced a lot of awful things. But they've forgiven them and moved forward and say, I'm grateful to be a part of this country. A lot of Native Americans don't feel that way. They haven't forgiven. They don't want to be a part of America. They want to have their own place with their own thing going on. Which I can understand, but I think that there's a lot missing on both sides, from American colonialists and Native Americans. There's a big gap in information for a lot of people, and a lot of them are operating under false assumptions about what would have happened had it not been for the colonial Americans. So Native Americans were not a monolith. There were hundreds of tribes in America that spoke different languages, that were very different, had different traditions and gods and all sorts of stuff. The way they lived, the houses that they built, the weapons they used, their social structures were often different. Some of them were very peaceful and kind of fit the bill of the Disneyfied Native Americans, where they were all sitting around playing drums and growing corn, and everything was cool, and uh, they weren't having war, and they weren't hurting each other, they weren't hurting kids, and all that stuff. Just good people living on the land, doing the same thing that their people have been doing for thousands of years. But not all of them were. A lot of native tribes were very warlike. They went to war with their neighbors. They butchered their neighbors. There were Native American genocides in America. There were Native Americans who hurt women and kids, both tribal and colonialist. Unprovoked sometimes. So it wasn't all Native Americans hanging out, smoking peace pipes, playing their flutes, and dancing in flowers. That's not the reality. It was for some. There were tribes like that. They were just living peacefully, doing their thing in the woods. But it wasn't all of them. And a lot of American colonialists really suffered from Native American violence. And not all of it was justified. Some of it you can argue about it. So then what happens is the Europeans win, the colonialists win. And a big reason why was because there was so much infighting within Native American society. The Native Americans took sides with, a lot of them took sides with the colonists. It would help them defeat other tribes. They were still fighting with each other. Had they united, had they been able to, it's kind of hard to unite such disparate people who don't speak the same language, you don't have the same customs, you don't have the same fighting style, who all aren't seeing the threat at the same time. So it's hard to unite. But had they been able to, they probably could have held off colonization for a while. But here's what a lot of Native Americans don't get. And I wish more of them did. Because I think that the myths of America and American colonialism hurt Native Americans. And they tend to spend a lot of time blaming white people instead of looking towards the future. Because the reality is that Native Americans weren't capable of uniting and fighting off a colonizer. They weren't technologically advanced enough. They weren't united. And they were going to be unable. At some point, whether it was the Europeans, the Chinese, the Mexicans, could have been the Aztecs, could have been Africans, could have been the Indians. Somebody would have landed in America and said, look at all this land and all this resources and this disparate group of people who were barely using any of it. And there's all this stuff. We could just move here. Hell, they'll fight each other. We can just pay one of them to fight the other one and we're good to go. Somebody would have colonized America. If not the Europeans, it would have been China. Would you rather be a Native American living in China right now? Under Chinese rules? Chinese poverty? Chinese communist authoritarianism? I don't think you would. And it bothers me because I appreciate Native Americans. I really do. I love some of them. Some of them are my brothers. And I've stood with them. I've chopped ironwood for 105-year-old Native American woman that didn't speak English. Not a word. Spent time hanging out with her. Know a lot of Native Americans that are amazing people. And while there was a lot of unfortunate events, a lot of them are misunderstood. A lot of them are flat out lies. And in the end, this continent was going to change. And I think that Native Americans are much better under European colonialism, what became America, than they would have been had it been India or China or the Egyptians or whoever. The Aztecs were brutal. They would have sacrificed half of you. So I hope everybody keeps that in mind. The Native Americans do have a lot of good complaints, but a lot of it's mixed with a lot of falsehoods and just a disconnect from reality. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'd love to hear some comments down below. If you got any questions, have suggestions, put them down in the comments section. I'd love a like, share, subscribe. I'll have a Cash App in the description. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Have a good evening. Take care. God bless.